Hi, I am Lucinda, an associate at POPIA Attorneys. I have been assisting companies for a number of years with the Protection of Personal Information Act, or POPIA for short, compliance. In my experience, I have found that there are misconceptions about the Act, and this part series seeks to break down those misconceptions and really get an understanding of how the Act works. In my last video, we discussed what personal information is and debunked the myth that only a few departments in an organization deal with personal information. In this video, I tackle another misconception, and that is that you always need consent in order to use or collect personal information. Consent is only one of the grounds of justification that can be used by a responsible party to process personal information. There are actually 5 more. Firstly, let's discuss what is a ground of justification. It is essentially the legal basis that an organization relies on in order to collect or use personal information. Besides relying on consent in terms of the Act, personal information may be processed if it is necessary to carry out the actions for the conclusion or performance of a contract to which the data subject is a party to. An everyday example of this is where you have to share personal information with your insurance company in order for them to provide you with a quote and then to provide you with insurance cover. The next ground is where processing complies with an obligation imposed by law on a responsible party. This is the case where your employer collects certain information and deducts UIF payments in line with labor law. Organizations can also process personal information if it protects a legitimate interest of the data subject. An example of this is where you are a beneficiary of a life cover policy that your loved one took out. The insurer will require your details as the beneficiary in order to pay you out in the unfortunate death of your loved one. The processing is done because it is in your legitimate interest to receive the payout. Personal information may also be processed for the proper performance of a public law duty by a public body. Public bodies such as SARS or Home Affairs are mandated to perform certain functions. In executing these functions, they need to collect personal information and may do so on this ground. Personal information may be processed where it is necessary for pursuing the legitimate interests of the responsible party or of a third party to whom the information is supplied. An example which is relevant is where a business puts up CCTV cameras. Processing of personal information via CCTV cameras can be justified on the basis that it is in the legitimate interest of the business to maintain the safety and security of its property. Although more than one ground may be applicable, it is important that organizations use the most appropriate ground of justification. For example, in most instances, you are able to obtain consent, however, it may not be the best idea. This is because a data subject is able to withdraw his or her consent. If consent is withdrawn, then the responsible party must stop using that information. If you think about processing employees' personal information based on consent, this means that if an employee were to be subject to a disciplinary hearing and then states he or she withdraws consent for the processing of that specific personal information, it would mean that the employer is unable to operate effectively. Furthermore, if organizations wish to rely on consent, it has the burden of proving that consent has been given. This means that the responsible party has to go a step further and implement a consent management process. As you can see, consent is not the best ground to rely on, and where appropriate, it should not be relied on when another ground of justification is more appropriate. Thank you for watching this video. Join me next time as we try to demystify POPIA. If you would like more content on data privacy and protection, please visit our website at ppmattorneys.co.za. You can also catch us on any of our social media channels. Thank you.